Section 3 also gives a particular order of preference to contractors. Okay? So the gentleman says, well, I don't live inside of this area, which is perfect. It's okay. But here's how it works. Any business that is owned by a person who is a resident of the city of Trenton, who owns their business, at least 50% of that business, and they operate that business themselves, they are considered a Section 3 business concern. And you receive first preference in all contracting so long as you meet all of the contract qualifications. For the contractors in the room, does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, you can become a Section 3 contractor even if you are not a resident-owned business if you do one of two things here. Number one, you employ currently 30% of your full-time staff that are low-income people who are residents of the city of Trenton. Okay? Does that make sense to some of the contractors?
Yes, it does.
Perfect. Or you can make a commitment under the rule that you're going to hire 30% of your aggregate workforce that are made up of either their residents or people from the city of Trenton, with, of course, preference going to their residents first. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
The last area in which you should be concerned with as a contractor is if you receive a contract, especially if you're a prime contractor, if you receive it and you commit to awarding to number one or number two, either to a resident-owned business or a company that substantially employs people who are low income, at least 25% of your contract award, you qualify under Section 3. Now, what this means is that if you meet 1, 2, or 3, you receive a preference over any and all other contractors under this rule. And that's important for you all to understand. But in order to reach that level, you have to, at time of bid, certify that you meet 1, 2, or 3. Okay? We'll talk about that a little later, and that'll be kind of done possibly even after we let most of the residents go. Go ahead, sir.
Now, what if I'm a white minority? Can I still fall under that if I'm out?
Absolutely. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
That gives me the same advantage?
The same advantage.
Okay.
Because remember this, the way that Section 3 was developed, and I love your question, thank you for asking it. The way in which Section 3 was designed, it was designed to provide an economic opportunity to low and very low income people inside of this community, right? So it didn't make a difference who owned the company. They simply wanted to make sure the people who lived within this community benefited. Exactly, exactly. Now you got it. All right, perfect. All right, so let me tell you now what we call the things that you really need to know to maximize your opportunities. And I know that these are barriers, and I understand that they are. But let me tell you, after 14 years of doing this, and I've been in real estate for over a quarter of a century all over the country, I see this happen everywhere. I need you to understand there's going to be 3 things that really seem to hinder people from getting work. And I can only ask you to solve this problem because only you can. Number 1, oftentimes employers say, I want someone who has their GED or high school diploma. Right? This is important. I know that in many cases you can go through your whole life without it, but in order to really tap into these resources more and more, you're going to have to get that. Number 2, it's imperative that you have a good work history. I don't care if you were just working at McDonald's. I don't care if you were working anywhere for anybody, do a good job, because the moment that employer or that prospective employer picks up the phone and calls to see how you work, you don't want people to say bad things about you. Yes, sir.
What about you never employed?
If you were never employed, you're in a better position than the people who have a bad record. Okay, so that's okay. You get away with stuff. But I have to assure you, in all my years as an employer, and I won't bore you with my background, I will assure you I've run across a lot of real interesting things, up to and including people who have literally slugged their bosses because they said something they didn't like. That's going to be hard to get you employed again. Really, I want you to know that. And then here's the big one. Be ready to pass the drug and alcohol screen and those criminal histories if they run them. Now, oftentimes in the trades, they don't do a lot of the criminal backgrounds, but boy, let me tell you, they will do that drug and alcohol screen. Yes, sir.
But they run that criminal history. I don't care if it's over 10 years it pops up. Certain charges. I mean, like that's y'all already automatically put you in a class, so like that's a question. If you have a felony, like that's a question already trying to do away with, like all together off the application, because in civilian, it's like it's really putting people in the class, like.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with you. So what I'm going to share with you are some of the secrets to success on Section 3.
Well, explain.
I'm going to absolutely tell you how we've taken this gentleman right here. Listen, seriously, how I could take this gentleman right here and I can turn him into a very successful businessman if he followed the rules the right way. You listen carefully before you leave here. I'm bound to open up your mind on something you probably never thought about. Hold on to it just for a few minutes. Okay. Let me tell you about the big one. The criminal history, a lot of you think is the biggest issue. It's not. More people get turned away because of their, because they can't pass that drug screen.
Yeah, you're right.
We have, over the years, seen a lot of people have an opportunity to go to work. We've had employers say, I will withhold the initial drug screen for 30 days. They still come back dirty. I have to assure you, and I mean this, if you're talking about anything relative to construction in particular, you cannot have people impaired on a job site. It is a danger to yourself and certainly to others, okay? So this is the one in which most contractors are really, really big on. So I want you all to be cognizant of that, because if I didn't tell you, then I would have felt like I lied to you today.